always like that. What then? Another kind of deformity, said the wife. If you understand that much, finished Mokusen, you are a good wife. Then he left. After his visit, this wife helped her husband to distribute, as well as to say. Mokugen was never known.
I'm going to read from a news article. This is a news article that was released 3 days ago. Okay, some researchers have managed to develop organoids using the endometrial cells from menstrual blood. Lab-grown 3D models of organs derived from stem cells found in the blood. These organoids can mimic what happens in the actual endometrium, the innermost lining of the uterus. Okay, so again, this is something that researchers have done today. This is an article written 3 days ago that talks about using organoids, using
Mazel
tov. The answer to your question, why would they do it this way? Because why wouldn't they? This doesn't require surgery. You don't need to go and get painful bone marrow procedure. You don't need to, harvest little umbilical cords from mothers who want to donate them. Like, this is the most obvious and spectacular use of something that was going to waste that can really eventually someday grow real organs. I never said it could do anything. I just said that they're using it to start 3D printing, parts of.
Okay. So what I'm trying to say to you is that first you cannot use a stem cell from one person to another. Okay, so it stays in the same person.
No.
So first, it's not to waste. Yes. So basically, what I'm trying to say to you, my friend, is that the success rate of using like a foreign stem cell, it has a really low chance of working out. First, second, it's not wasting because, as I told you before, like you can use it only on one person. So like you can exclude the men, keep the woman. Okay, so half of the rest can do that. Second, I said to you before, show me some person they are working on it. When they succeed, then it's a fact. But now it's a theory. It's just a theory. It did not succeed.
I have something to say. This TADR feels like
Hymn to America. Republicans.
were a scam in 2015.
That's off topic. But when I read Jeremy's link, it says that at the bottom, it says that it says it can extract stem cells, and they could use it for people that because it's a versatility of like new cells. It could go for your bone, nerves, muscle, tissue, all that. So that's why they like stem cells. It'll regenerate your whole body. That's why it stops disease. But the problem is only 4% of Jeremy's link is that 4% of them is peeing in a cup. And then so they can't really get that much. And imagine if only like 1% of that donates. That's like nothing. That's like probably a few hundred people, a few thousand people. It's not going to be enough to like really start a treatment for that. So then they're like trying to see if they can take it from tampons and see if that's usable. If they can't take it from tampons, then they're going to have people just donate peeing on a cup. But if they can take tampons, then it's more than plausible. It's going to be like accessible for everyone.
Wow, that's where you want to? No, come on. Hold on. Let me say this. Let me just respond to you, Doctor, really quickly. Like, what they said, I think it's silly if you can get people to stick needles in their arms for donations. You're going to have some women who are nice enough to donate their.
Yeah, it's not going to be. You can't do no real treatment with it. You're just going to get a few results that you can do in a lab.
No, you're wrong. And let me just say this, okay? Tissues and organs grown from stem cells can be used in someone else's body, particularly in transplant regenerative medicine, right? So this is called allogenic transplants, where stem cells from a donor are used to treat a recipient. Stem cells can differentiate into various cell types and tissues, making it promising for tracing damages, and it can be sensitive because of the stem cells going in without a signature.
You're talking about stem cell transferring.
Okay.
Also, just from the standpoint of enriching research, I mean, you have another source of stem cells to work on to do research. So that's also good.
100%. I think it's just so much easier than bone marrow. No,
It is. I'm not against it, Jim. I'm not against
the talks, and that they will be taking place at lower levels. Then he said that it needs to be de-escalated, the situation, and that the rates are unsustainable. We know that. But then he wouldn't comment any farther on what's going on there. The European Central Bank has released moderating growth forecasts due to the tariffs. So we are beginning to drag down other economies, right? Everyone's sort of moderating their expectations
Mazel
because if
tov.
Americans aren't going to buy our stuff, we're not going to be able to make as much stuff, right? So the European Central Bank is moderating that. China is moderating their figures. Basically, every developed economy in the world, their central banks are now downwardly revising their expected growth numbers with the expectation that if these American tariffs stay, they will not be able to sell as much as they did. Furthermore, Bessent said they won't seek a currency target in talks with Japan. This is very smart. Ultimately, Reagan did a currency target with Japan, and it really messed up things in Japan for quite a long time. So taking that option off the table, very smart out of the gate to maybe get Japan to come around. However, Japan has said they have offered us trade deals, and we have not accepted them, and we said we would get back to them with what we actually want. So it's kind of clear that we don't even know what we're really asking for right now. What they approached us with was they would remove tariffs on our cars, and they would start importing our cars. We would remove tariffs on their cars, and then in addition, they would start buying double the amount of food from us that they're currently buying. So, that would have been a win for U.S. farmers, and it would have been, I don't know if a win, but it certainly would have affected the automotive industry one way or another. That's on that deal. Then, and this is important, folks, please don't, this is the most important part. Okay, what I'm about to say is the most important part, so please pay attention. At 4:20 today, Trump said he was going to exempt some automotive makers. He also then said that he might be lowering tariffs on China. Then he said, if we don't make a deal with China, that's okay. Then he said he's going to increase tariffs on cars, and we're now at 5:54 p.m., and then he said he's not considering an adjustment to automobile components or automobile tariffs at 7:58, which is, again, if you're following this, seems to be against things that were just said literally moments before. So literally in the span of less than 2 hours, we have a pledge to lower automobile tariffs, as well as steel and aluminum, then walking that back and saying he's going to keep it or saying he might even raise it. So, folks, here, this kind of chaos, not good. We finished green only because those comments were made after market close. Ford and the other automotive makers actually rocketed on news that Trump might be removing automotive tariffs. And I have not checked because I'm out here on the family farm, but I am sure they are back down again because now he's saying he's not going to remove the tariffs. Anyway, I land there.
Every billionaire seems to have their own platform, and then utilizing that platform in their
One mic. Who's that speaking? One mic, please. Yeah, absolutely. We're doing a Dateline. I don't know who you are. Please, if I was on the other platform, manage that, guys. All right, guys, I appreciate you. Man, that was Storm. That was Skull. Appreciate that, Dateline. Because you were telling me that, I think you texted me earlier, said that he was actually removing the tariffs on automobiles, right?
Yeah, those texts were sent pretty close together, Jonathan. The story changed that fast. So,
wow.
Again, we don't have a very well-defined policy right now. It would be great and a moderating influence on the market if we could come up with a strategy and stick to it, perhaps. Anyway, I'll land there, and I will be back on later. Thank you.
Hey, before you go, because I know you're with the family, just 30 seconds more. China put a post out, tweeted out that Trump chickened out. And I think it garnered like 150 views so far. And they got that hashtag Trump chickened out. That thing is just going crazy all over China. What do you know about that, Skull?
All I know is that it seems like every time a story like that breaks, and it's happened multiple times now over the last 2 weeks, he then immediately doubles down on tariffs. And I hope that that's not true. If literal optics and social media is driving his tariffing decisions, that would be disastrous for the future of America. So hopefully that is not what is driving these changes in behavior. Because if it is, we're in real trouble. I do not necessarily think it is. I don't think.
So you're hoping he doesn't respond to that, right?
I certainly am. Yeah.
Okay. Appreciate you, Skull, as always, man. Go enjoy the family, man. We'll see you back here later on. Appreciate you as always, guys. That's Skull. Make sure you have to follow Skull. One of the greatest financial minds we have on this app and here on Debate the News as well. So I'm gonna go right over to chat. Christy Chatham. Chat, are you there?
What's up? Hey, JB.
What's up, Miss Tatum? Just kidding.
And I am. Okay. And I am. You ready? You ready for me?
Let's rock out. Let's rock out so we can do this.
Yeah, so I'm Chad, and I'm bringing you the middle of the road, the balanced dateline for today. In Minnesota, Attorney General Keith Ellison has filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration. Guys, he's contesting executive orders that ban transgender girls from participating in girls' sports. Ellison argues these orders violate the U.S. Constitution, emphasizing Minnesota's commitment to protecting transgender youth. Supporters of the federal orders argue that they uphold fairness in women's sports by ensuring competition is based on biological sex and not gender identity. However, critics contend the orders are discriminatory, infringing on the rights of transgender individuals, and undermining inclusivity in education and athletics. Now, hundreds of political scientists, and this story is near and dear to me because my undergrad degree is in political science. But hundreds of political scientists have expressed concerns over the state of American democracy, citing actions by the Trump administration that they believe indicate a slide toward authoritarianism. The scholars point to recent policy decisions and rhetoric as undermining democratic norms. Some conservatives argue these concerns are exaggerated, viewing the administration's actions as efforts to restore traditional values and strengthen national sovereignty. However, liberals see these developments as alarming signs of eroding democratic institutions and norms, calling for increased vigilance and civic engagement. Now, Secretary of State Marco Rubio has unveiled a significant reorganization of the State Department. We knew this was coming at some point. And in this change, this reorg, he's aiming to reduce staff by 15% and eliminate over 100 offices. The plan seeks to streamline operations and focus on traditional diplomacy, moving away from programs perceived as promoting liberal values. Proponents believe the overhaul will eliminate bureaucratic inefficiencies and realign the department with America's core national interests. However, critics warn that cutting some of these programs, guys, that are particularly related to human rights and diversity could diminish the U.S.'s global leadership and commitment to democratic principles. Now, good old President Trump. He has indicated plans to reduce the 145% tariffs on Chinese imports. Now, mind you, this has changed several times over the past few hours. And he's responding to the concerns from major retailers. He met with Target, Home Depot, and Walmart yesterday about supply chain disruptions and rising consumer prices. Supporters view the potential tariff reduction as a strategic move to stabilize markets while maintaining leverage in trade negotiation. However, opponents argue that the initial imposition of high tariffs was economically damaging and that the reversal highlights a lack of coherent trade policy. And last, in Mississippi's special election, Perry Van Bailey won House District 23 and Gregory Elliott secured House District 82. These results maintain the existing party balance in the state legislature. The Republican hold in District 23 is seen as an affirmation of the party's policies and leadership at the state level. If you guys aren't aware of Mississippi, people believe that there are some changes that are going on within the district, and the Democratic hold in District 82 is interpreted as evidence of sustained support for progressive policies and a rejection of Trump's administration's influence in local politics. So we're seeing how these policies are actually affecting us locally. You okay? You need prayer? You all right? And that ends the balance dateline. Apparently, I'm triggering some of you. Probably MAGA. I'm probably triggering MAGA. No, y'all don't have self-control.
That was a dissertation.
That was a dateline. We weren't yelled at and gloomed and doomed for 5 minutes. That was your middle of the road dateline, you guys.
Skull must have been doom and gloom.
Oh no, we were waiting on you to yell at us and tell us how Trump is an amazing president and how we have nothing to worry about.
Chad, I would never yell at you, number one. Okay?
No, we got yelled at by Andrew.
Oh, well. Oh, Andrew, that's what Andrew does. Angry
Andrew. Somebody's got to bring the balance and the beauty. Hello?
I wasn't yelling. That wasn't me.
That wasn't you? You wasn't red. You wasn't red in the face.
During your day.
Back over to you. No, not JB. Back over to you, JB.
So, guys, here's the deal. China right now is gloating. They tweeted out Trump chicken out. It's been viewed over 150 million times, and the hashtag Trump chicken out is going viral in China. And because Trump right now pretty much says, hey, he's gonna walk back the tariffs. He actually sounds using common sense. He sounds logical. This is the Donald Trump I've been waiting to see. He's responding. He's pivoting. He's not taking us down a perilous path. He's actually doing and saying the things. He walked it back on Jerome Powell. He walked it back on China today. A lot of people are saying Trump blinked, and he may have, but I'm never going to knock someone for doing the right thing for the economy. But with that being said, right now the market's responded favorably. Now I don't know what's going on with the automobiles. Supposedly he said he was going to walk back those tariffs. Then he said he wasn't. I don't know what's going on with the automobiles right now, so I can't speak on that. But right now, China is mocking the U.S. and they're putting out all kinds of memes and cartoons about Trump throwing a temper tantrum. They're doing all kinds of things, folks. So hopefully Trump sticks with this. But how do you guys feel? China is pretty much declaring a victory on the trade war because Trump's walking it back. They have not blinked. They haven't gone public. They've just spoken behind the scenes to other countries and said, hey, this is what we expect of you. And pretty much it looked like they actually have won at least the public perception war, if not the trade war.
I will say this. I know Trump is privy to way more information than any of us could ever hope to have. And so when he's in the driver's seat right now making these decisions, China can say whatever they're going to say. I've seen some of the memes. Some of them are pretty damn funny. Who cares? As long as he won't put his pride and ego above the country and he's doing what's right for the country, that's all that matters to me. I don't care about MAGA saving face or whatever. It doesn't matter to me. I don't know if it's according to his plan or not. If whatever decisions he's making, though, I feel like he is making them for the good of our nation. So that's, and if you want to call that playing chicken or whatever, who cares? If ultimately if it's good for us, it's good for us.
No, I ain't calling
Jonathan. Oh, sorry, you go. Yeah, Jonathan, look, we all make mistakes, right? Even the President of the United States can make mistakes. So if today, in my opinion, is a win, right? Today is a win, but the cumulative impact and the damage globally is yet to be seen. Now, America is super strong and essential to the world economy. So we can have a big fall, we can make mistakes, and we can recover. But today was definitely a win. Markets were up. Today, we are on a sideways S. We are on a roller coaster, folks. And we are on a roller coaster trending down. So today was a win and a good thing. But is it a continued trade war and a storm in the future? Or are we on a temporary trade thaw? that's what happened today, right? It was a trade thaw today. There's a lot of, I can add more later, Jonathan, when you want. I won't do it now, but I'll add it later.
Yeah, absolutely. In a second,
I'd like to add something if I could.
Who's that?
That's Jamal. I'm over here on the other side. If I could, I'd like to just say this. Trump has come off today, and I voted for him, but he's coming off like a cocky white boy. He's coming off like a cocky white boy, acting like he wanted to fight, but he got punched in the nose and wasn't ready for the fight. And China is laughing at him because they should be laughing at him. He should have shut the fuck up and moved a lot slower. Bill Clinton was our best president we ever had in my lifetime because Bill moved very slow and he was able to get his dick sucked too.
What the hell? Yeah. See, we got different rules here, man. We respect the women, man, and that, once again, ladies, I apologize.
The woman wasn't false.
Yeah.
Why it'd be all right if a man sucked his dick?
Yeah, guys.
Oh my God!
So anyway, guys, we're gonna keep this thing moving. But you voted before, and
I told you the guy was on the wrong side of the track.
Yeah. So with that being said,
bringing him over there from the clubhouse, that's what you get.
Yeah. What I want to say is this right here.
Checked him at the gate. You got to check these people at security, bro.
Yeah, we should have. But listen to me. Without the language,
he made a good point, though.
That's what I said. That's what I want to go back to. Without the language that you use, okay? Without the language that you use, okay? I want to ask you a question. I mean, because you said you voted for Donald Trump.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
But are you unhappy with him now? What's going on?
I think he came out of the gate too fast. When you're doing this stuff, you got to be really tactful and strategic about the way you unfold things. And he came out like a rookie, just like a lot of his cabinet has come out like rookies. And I don't like the way he came out. And he got my vote, and I'm disappointed in him.
Okay, all right. I appreciate that. Guys, there was some honesty. I mean, it was a little bit too brutally honest, but there was some honesty from that gentleman over there. Right now, there are 12 states filing a lawsuit against Trump in the courts, okay? And they're filing a lawsuit to prevent his tariffs from taking place. They're saying that he does not have the right to raise taxes, okay? Once again, he doesn't have the power to raise taxes on a whim, all right? And so, essentially, they're going to the U.S. International Trade Court, and they file. I think Letitia James is one of them, obviously, but there are 12 states that are actually filing to block his new tariffs. So that's something that I want to jump into. But once again, I want to get back to the fact that China right now.
Hi, Dr. Ann. I'm re-streaming Stupid Drum. Rebranding it as Republican. This is Jonathan the Schmuck. Jonathan Bing. The name of this room is Trump Chickens Out. China tweets.
A lot of things and accomplish a lot of things. Us being a very strong brand, reliable brand. And right now, I believe that brand has been eroded.
And you should help me co-host like some Republican
podcasts. That brand has definitely been eroded somewhat, but
we went to this Cook County, Chicago GOP event last night and caused some chaos.
I'm actually proud of Trump's about face. It shows that Donald Trump may, once again, doing what he thinks is best for America.
Do you think?
Yeah, I agree. He has the ability to course correct, and that's very important for a good leader to do. So good on him.
Do you think America's brand is better in April of 2025 than it was in April of 2024?
Do I think? Yeah, I do. I do.
Thank you for being honest.
I do.
Everybody was laughing at us last year this time, bro.
Laughing about what?
Joe Biden falling down the stairs, bro.
Joe Biden falling down the stairs.
Joe Biden couldn't.
remember his son, couldn't remember his granddaughter.
Yeah, but now our economy
Didn't know how to walk up the stage. Come on, you're telling me our brand is worse off today?
So how is our brand better off?
The U.S. dollar is not as supported.
Every country today.
Yeah, but
Food is first in mind. His omnipresence. It is more powerful. It is a bigger threat to people. Okay, it's in every paper. What's he doing? Our brand got stronger overnight. Our brand recognition, awareness. It's all bigger. It's not as big as Jonathan's smile or that big mouth he is, but it's big.
So,
There you go. No, go ahead, Chad.
I was gonna say, so making a decision, then backpedaling off that decision, then changing the decision, and like that makes us look sound. That makes us look strong instead of being resolute.
Chat in the world.
Yeah. That's not.
I don't think I asked you though. Go ahead.
Bad about it.
The rest of the world's negotiating is gonna be like, okay, yeah, he's the businessman. We're gonna come to an agreement. Guys, I've been saying this for weeks. Okay, he's gonna push and ask for everything. He's gonna allow everybody to be a winner. I think I said it last night. Actually, he's gonna come back and say, okay, guys, everybody can win here. He's gonna take relief off the compression. They're gonna come aboard. Hopefully, he'll bring them back to the table now. Okay, you're reasonable. We get it. We got a little bit right here. We're going to do. Okay, we want. They get to come to the table. They get to work a new deal out. Number two, everybody got to feel like you can fundraising engine that's going to be nobody is going to think less of it. Now, no further with the fire. And our candidates are fully supported. Number three is you're going to be mobilizing each and every one of our voters. And that starts with solid vote by one call. We're going to week below to see how we can just go down and fucking party and win. Fucking word name or gifty, what these weren't even terms or concepts.
But Grant, you talk about, like you set yourself up for this, because you talk about Biden tripping going up the steps on an airplane, like that was something significant, versus talking about tariffs and walking back on what you said you're going to do, and then saying you're going to end all or come to a deal with Ukraine and Russia, and that didn't happen, and like you keep going back and circling back. How does that even make us look resolute and strong? It doesn't. And what I want to know is why can't some of these things, and you know negotiations, you shouldn't have to show all your hand. And what he keeps doing is showing his hand. He's doing the same methods. He's not changing it. He keeps showing his hand, and then he keeps backtracking. If I was another country, I would just hold out like China's doing, because his negotiation tactics aren't changing. They aren't fluid.
Well, hold on, let me just add one thing, Grant. So, Grant, you said that, and we agree on some things, but you said that the from the stats I see, the U.S. the view on the U.S. is actually decreasing. Canada and the United States population feels on stats not put in the chat. The whole United States population, 63% of Americans would say that the view of America globally has decreased since a year ago. So I would like to. That doesn't make it true because it's the Grant Cardone truth here, guys.
No, it's not. I mean, hey, Laura, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. And I love what you said earlier. I just think that there's some things that are not being measured here. There's no polls. I'm sure it'd be very easy to find. Is America in more Google searches today than they were a year ago? That's not being searched. Okay, what you're searching is, was there some tarnishment, which Jonathan was referring to? Has the brand been tarnished? Look, if the brand awareness went up and more people are talking about America or Gucci or whatever the brand is, it could be negative and still be positive because you had such broad increase in awareness of the name. And I can just tell you from somebody that's gotten a lot of bad press.
Who? You?
None of it's hurt me.
That's true. If people hit the 5 button, people in all this here, if people hit the 5 button, buy America, I will gladly buy you dinner at Steak 954, my friend, or whatever dinner you want in Miami or California. But I just feel like we've tarnished the America brand, and we're going to have a rippling effect.
Aaron has Coke nostrils.
Everybody's got a brand awareness problem. You can always heighten the brand. We have a president that has 34 convictions. Okay.
So, Grant, you sound somewhat proud about that, are you?
I told you when he got convicted, I said if they convict him of one thing, he'll be the president of the United States. They convicted him of 34 things, and the whole country got behind him, including your people.
I think we look really bad right now. Look.
Well, yeah, we do.
New Jerseyans?
Yeah, New Jerseyans.
We're not. You know, we can make fun of Biden all he wants. You know, falling downstairs. Our economy fell down the stairs. That's what sucks. And I think China is laughing at us. How we laughed at Biden is how China's laughing at us. We're the Biden right now. We're falling down. And we have Trump. You know, I voted for the guy. I thought he was going to do what he was trying to do in 2016. But right now, I don't know what happened to the dude, but he lost the narrative. And I think China is laughing at us because even Europe is laughing at us. See, we had a fragile thing going on. What we were running is the world's biggest Ponzi scheme called the U.S. dollar. And this guy really thought America was producing products the world was buying. In truth, we were the ones consuming, the world was producing, and everyone was floating the dollar. But the minute they realized that this was all bullshit and a bluff, that's when China said, look, when Trump raised the tariff 100-something%, China raised it as well. They matched it. Then he raised it to 200-something. And at that point, China said, you know what, man? You can keep tariffing all you want. We don't care. We're just going to keep making money and doing our business. And look who's coming back to the negotiating table. Not China, Trump. And look at Europe. Europe renegotiated. Canada renegotiated. Not with the U.S., but with each other. We realigned the world outside of the U.S. sphere of influence. And that sucks.
You know, the other thing is Pete is another American influence. I'm talking about Pete Hegseth. Because
let me just say this real quick. If I find out, Grant, this shit is true, I'm sorry. That's a fuck up on Trump's part. I mean, I've been cheerleading for this strategy for the last fucking 4 weeks. We get concessions, or I'm fucking pissed, Grant. I'm sorry. That's the way negotiations. That's the way negotiations work. You raise the stakes, you change the game, and you clean the table. If we're not cleaning the table and they're coming to clean our table, that's a fucking problem, Grant. And I'm sorry, like, maybe we're in the middle of it, and maybe he has something up his sleeve that we don't know about. But if we walk away from this negotiation based off of what Scald is saying, and we get no concessions from China, we do have fucking egg on our face, and it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to look good for the future. It wouldn't portend well for future economic negotiations with the U.S. if they can just punk us like some bitches, and then we just like acquiesce to demands. Grant, you're talking about brand awareness. I know about brand awareness. Probably not as well as you do, but you know, I'm a straight shooter. And
you would have never changed your name from Snarky Puppy or
I'm still snarky.
Snarky Puppy.
I gotta be honest, like
the dumbest marketing move I've ever seen.
If it's got you talking about it, so maybe it must be doing something for marketing. All right. Now, if there's some sort of light at the end of this tunnel, Jonathan, if Trump figures out a way to turn this around and create what Grant is talking about, create some perceived value or some perceived upper hand that China think they have, and then he comes in and gives them the impression that they're walking away with something when they're really not, then I say the man is a genius. But I think it's yet to be seen. I'm interested to learn what's the finality of it.
do we sit down with China? And if we do sit down with China, what are the outcomes? Do we end up getting a benefit out of this or no?
Does he get any credit for making the power moves at all? Like at all? I think it was interesting to hear the comment that he's already lost.
Not if we get power bottomed.
But give me 1 second, TC, because here's the thing. I just heard somebody say that he lost the narrative. And to me, I feel like he's writing this narrative. And at some point, like you're saying, if we get this, then great. If we don't, then he was a failure. I mean, he's making the moves, though. That's just where I'm coming from. You never get credit if you lose.
Right, Diana. You're right. The game is not over. We're probably not even in the first quarter of the game. They're still at the table, and they're negotiating, guys. The negotiations is going on, okay? You cannot just have, in negotiations, for people to stay interested in the game, they have to believe they can win it. You can't just trounce on the other side and just leave the table. What are you talking about?
Well, and Grant, do you prefer, and I wish Gold was here because I was going to ask him, because he kind of slighted his commentary during the Dateline. Do you prefer to know, like, the play-by-play? I enjoy it. I enjoy that he's engaging people. Whether or not it's going to backfire, I guess we'll see. Jonathan, obviously, with his facial expressions, completely disagrees. But I love the play-by-play, right? Why not? We're in an era where we're not going to go backwards on how viral it is to participate in government. I'm sorry, I don't think that's going to happen. This is what we get. And the more that we participate and the more that we engage this way, I think everybody becomes part of the narrative. I'm still rooting for him. Nothing is showing this doom and gloom that we keep reporting. Respectfully, back to you.
But since when in negotiations do you show your whole hand? Since when?
Since when do they say we're going to start? Since when did they say we're going to start off with low-level talks and then it should go on through the summer? And, pretty much everything they've said signifies that we lost. Everything is done. China still hasn't commented publicly. He begged China to come to the table. He begged China to respond. China hasn't responded. He said quietly. Guys, we're the ones that are speaking. Now we're signaling to China. We're now signaling to China like, hey, we're sorry. It's like I don't know. Like you kicked this girl out the house and she left. and he's like now like she'll be back. and 3 weeks later, she's not back and he's seeing her out at the club partying. And he's coming up to her like, yo, I need to talk to you. That's what's going on right now.
I love that analogy.
That's a complicated relationship, Diane. That's a fact. But listen, man, toxicity keeps you in there. So
Come on back home.
Hey, I need to talk to you real quick. Yeah, our relationship with China and all these other countries that everyone always says are the biggest boogeymans. Listen, it's about to shake it up and start talking. I don't think they're these nuclear warheads that are going to kill Americans all the time. So might as well talk about it. And it's about time that they troll a little bit for Trump too, so that, they can keep everybody engaged. I'm sorry, I'm not throwing in the towel yet.
So the way I see it is one of two things. There's one of two ways we could save face. Go ahead, Devon. I'm coming at you.
Yeah, I was just gonna say real quickly, why didn't we start off talking? Why do we want to talk now? I mean, if you're a great negotiator, you start by negotiating, not by doing exactly what he did, and now we look crazy. I mean, for TC to say this is not a good look, I'm really in shock right now.
He didn't say that. He said basically Trump is damned if he does and damned if he doesn't, and that is
exactly.
a place.
No, I didn't say that.
I didn't say that.
Can I say what I said?
I didn't say what you said.
You just said that I said. Okay.
For what you said, I was listening to you, and to me, you sound concerned. You're not up there booty clapping like certain people saying, "Oh, this is a negotiation type thing." No. Why? If Diana just said, "Well, now we're talking," why didn't we start off talking? Why are we talking now? That was my point. I land.
Because he was signing all those executive orders. So you guys can just hurry up and get to work.
See, now y'all making me feel like how I felt back in 2023. But you cannot put lipstick on this pig. All I'm saying is this: I'll take Grant at his word. Maybe we're still in the middle of the negotiations, and you can't judge it yet because it's not done yet. What I'm saying, I see two outcomes. Like, this is just my personal opinion. Like, I haven't had a chance to look at CNBC. I haven't watched Squawk Box this morning. But from my perspective, if Donald Trump, if we lead with the trade negotiation that China does better and America does better, I think that's a win. If we lead from the trade negotiations and China does better and we keep the status quo, that's a big L. If we lead the negotiation and China does worse and America is at a negative position.
The club's turning up.
Before we started the trade negotiations, hold on, I still think that's a win. And let me tell you why. Because the original stated purpose for raising these tariffs on China was to incentivize manufacturing and our industrial base to bring that home, to invite other companies from other countries to bring their manufacturing to America as opposed to using China for cheap labor, right? It continues for us to raise those revenues, and it continues for us to be able to push back against China and their imperialism over the economic position of the American buyer. And all I'm saying is, let's wait and see what happens. I'm not calling it yet, but with him lifting tariffs on China and us getting no concessions for it, I just don't see, at this point now, I don't see the play. Because there's only one way to go from here, and that's to continue to regress. And if we continue to do that without concessions, that's a losing negotiation. I negotiate contracts on a regular basis, and I know how to offer incentives, and I know how to offer deals to convince the buyer to take my sale, knowing full well that my ace is in the pocket with the fine print in the contract. So I know what Grant's talking about in terms of making the buyer feel like they're getting something special, but really they haven't read the fine print and realizing that, hey, I actually get the better end of this deal. If that's the case, then he still wins. And that's a win for Trump.
TC, let me just say something to you, because China hasn't responded yet. They haven't negotiated one damn thing. China has just done what they've done and just had not spoken at all. Trump is doing all the talking. Trump is now, I'm going to tell you guys, China is like this right here. They're sitting there, their hands behind their back, something like this right here. And Trump's up and down, screaming, yelling, and China's still sitting there like this. And now, Trump is like, fuck it. If you don't want to negotiate, I'm going to negotiate with myself. That's where Trump is at, guys. That's where the U.S. is at. They're like, fuck it, you don't want to negotiate? We're going to negotiate with ourselves. Now, it's China, and that's where we are.
News, but that's fine.
Yeah, wait. That's not fake news.
Yes, it is.
No, that's not fake news. I mean, that literally, he didn't say that literally, but China still hasn't responded. Okay? China still hasn't responded. So when you're saying it's fake news, so, China hasn't agreed to low-level talks. China hasn't said nothing. Matter of fact, Trump said, yeah, we're talking to China. China said, no, we're not. They came out and said, we're talking to China. And then, Trump said, we're talking to China. Then when Trump's, senior aide said, no, we're not. Okay? That's the message that's out there. No, we're not. Okay? So they're not even on the same page. They're trying to put this message out there. And let me just say this right here. Elon Musk, I'm going to be honest with you, they got to keep Elon Musk from the Oval Office because he's ready to slap the shit out of Trump. All right? He's ready to slap the shit out of Trump. Because of these tariffs, BYD, guys, BYD is about to take over the world. You guys don't know what BYD is right now, but a lot of you guys will pretty much know what BYD is by this time next year. All right? BYD, build your own dream is what it stands for. Build your own dream. They got the best, and I mean the best, electric cars in the world. All right? And they're Chinese made, and the One mic, man. The U.S. and the European market was sort of helping Elon by keeping them at bay. The EU has now let them in, okay? And pretty soon Americans are going to be clamoring for them as well, all right? The self-driving technology and all that other stuff Elon promised, they're already there. And they're much cheaper. They're half the price of Tesla.
Can I chime in?
Sure, go ahead. I want the other person I was trying to chime in that I muted first. Then you. CH, let's go. Let's go.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to quickly say that you have to look at how this war started, trade war. It is not America versus China. It is the White House versus China. Because on China's side...
I was talking about BYD. I'll come back to you. The other person, you want to chime in on this electric vehicle thing? Go ahead.
Yeah. They're heavily subsidized by the Chinese government, and they do so because they want market penetration. The Europeans don't realize it yet, but if they do allow BYD to come into their market like you just described, it's going to kill part of their auto sector. Now, there hasn't been anything officially announced just yet to the degree that's going to allow BYD to come in. I believe in some cases it was, I think, the government of Hungary that allowed that they were going to open up BYD factories, but even then the manufacturing was going to be at limited quantity and of a specific model. It's not going to be something that's going to be to the detriment of their domestic manufacturing. China has responded. It just hasn't gotten as much press. Some of the tariffs that they put in, I believe they put tariffs on the agricultural sector to hit the U.S. farmers, and in some cases even bypassing some of the purchase agreements that they had in the past by agreeing to buy, whether it's beef from Argentina or soybeans from Brazil, or in some cases even fertilizer from Russia. I'm going to agree and disagree with Grant. I think the idea had good intent. How it was executed, I think, leaves room for improvement, to say it lightly. But to say that it's a complete failure, I think that's not true. Because you had other countries in the sphere of influence of China. You got your Cambodias, your Vietnam, your Thailand, China has essentially offshored part of their manufacturing. Those countries have agreed, and in some cases even renegotiated part of their trade deals with the United States. So in some essence, you're still getting China there. That's in the short term. Now, in the long term, China may simply change the tags on some of the products or the stage of the products that are manufactured within China to then are assembled in some of those sphere countries and then essentially come into the United States, very similar to what they did in Mexico. The part that I think I'm a little bit confused about with what you just recently said, or with what you were saying, you want manufacturing to come back to the United States. I would believe most Americans should be supportive of this nature. And I would think that the people that you should actually be more upset at, it's not actually Trump. It's actually the capitalist class, some of the companies on Wall Street, the big conglomerates that were putting pressure on the administration to fall through, because their bottom line, the short term and long term, were actually starting to be hit. Some of our quote unquote allies that we seem to care about and say that our brands have taken a punishment were the same allies that were selling treasury bills that were, again, counter to the incentive for the long term refinancing of the debt of the United States. It wasn't China that was selling those treasuries. It was countries like the UK, entities or blocks like the EU, and in some cases even investors and banks like in Japan, your quote-unquote allies that were working against you because they were trying to protect part of their domestic industries that, what this negotiation has shown, they're not as solvent or viable to the degree that they think. And then furthermore, it shows that even with the situation that the United States is going through with Trump, with these trade negotiations, we just recently had an auction of treasury bills, both directly and indirectly.
and the sentiment was that that auction was going to be negative.
Check your fuel gauge. Check your fuel gauge.
To check the fuel gauge. Apologies. I will land now. The result was actually the opposite. It was a very positive treasury auctions, directly and indirectly. I believe Secretary Besson even said to that, which says that as the last place of storage, the United States dollar is still the place where investors in Europe, in Asia, are still flighting towards. And even with the chaos that Trump created, that's still alluded to. So now you know he wants to make a deal. Now these countries also know that they still need the U.S. market because, frankly, the Chinese are not going to consume to the same degree. And their investors, their manufacturers are also going to be impacted because, listen, they can say all they want. Africa is not going to spend the way the American consumer does. Neither South America and neither Asia, especially, we're going to be going through towards this.
Can we just?
I'm landing.
I know, bro, but you said you landed a little while ago. It's the conversation too.
Yeah, can Clubhouse get it's Bull here? Real quick, it's Bull here. Can Clubhouse get in the conversation?
No, I'm just saying, like guys, everybody's at the table right now. People are having conversations right now. To suggest that what he's doing is not working is crazy. We're talking about business rather than bullets. We're not at war. We're talking about money and finance. Donald Trump is a deal maker. And Donald Trump wants to do deals with every one of these countries, okay? For the U.S., for right now, and for the future. There are deals being talked about right now that have nothing to do with tariffs. Okay, like, come on, Jonathan, if you were in a position, do you think you would tell the American public everything?
Well, absolutely not.
Exactly.
I'd leak it on.
However,
and the best way to hide everything is to be noisy about a few things. Dude, I'm in D.C. today, okay? My driver, I asked my driver, hey, man, what's the economy like here? He's an Indian dude. He's got 3 kids. A family of 5. He is elated. He's like, I have done 12 trips to the White House in the first 3 months of the year. I didn't do 12 trips in 4 years when Biden was here. There's meetings every day. There's activity at the airport. The FBO that you flew in was full, so they had to park you at another FBO. Okay, I talked to another guy today in the driving business. My business is up 40%. Freaking love it. Everybody's back in the office now. We have like 70% more people in the city. The coffee shops are doing better. The restaurants. I went to dinner tonight. Freaking place didn't have 2 seats in it. If I didn't promise, I'm lucky I got in the place. I did have to make a promise. Now, I did talk to one guy at a major financial institution that said, bro, he came in the meeting, he says, Trump has ruined my life. Okay, he's a major financial institution. And he started making fun of Trump and everything. I said, well, let me ask you something. Who'd you blame last year? And he's like, oh, that's pretty good. Yeah, we had, because they were off last year too. Now he's way off this year. Anyway, my point is, Trump is a businessman. He a businessman.
Oh my God. This guy.
He's doing business.
You know.
This is cringe. One second. We got CH. We have CH been waiting for a while. Go ahead.
Wait, you started on time tonight, Jonathan. I'm really proud of you. Did you?
Not quite, man. We were probably about.
Here you go, Grant.
We're probably about 30 seconds off, something like that.
Well, that's good.
We'll get there.
Everybody come off. Sounds like a great job.
Jeremy, you held it down. You were so on time today, man. Come on.
Come on.
Yeah. I'm going to be short and concise.
You gotta go.
And I'm going to be short and concise and just say, hold this L. It's not a good look for y'all. Y'all copping, please, just like Trump.
Mother, you got it.
Okay, so I was gonna jump in a little bit earlier, and when we're talking about America's brand and global image, I think one thing we miss is the fact that obviously America's favorability ratings are down, but China's are not skyrocketing, but they are significantly higher than they were prior to Trump having these tariffs. Other countries now view China as being a more positive influence on the world than America. I think that is problematic, right? You have the countries that are American allies traditionally now signing new trade deals with China because they know that America is an unreliable nation, and China knows the truth that the American consumer is weak. And people lack patriotism in the country, so they're not willing to spend $3-4 on a product that is American made. And China knows that. All they have to do is wait us out, and people crumble like little bitches.
Yeah, well, absolutely, guys. China, there was a fire in a Temu factory, and they destroyed a Temu factory. They said the estimated damage is like $5.42. Just kidding. You guys don't get it. The products there are so cheap and expensive. You can't compete with China. Tara, I see that you're here. You were able. What are your thoughts about this? China actually putting out there that Trump chickened out and mocking the U.S. For caving on a trade war. What are your thoughts on that, Tara?
Look, you know my thoughts. My thoughts are this is a man who really didn't have a plan. I think Donald Trump thought, I'm going to tell everybody, I'll put tariffs on all of you. You're all going to come to the table. You're going to bow your head down to me, and then I will make my deals. I don't think that happened. So now he's been going back, up, down, up, down. We don't even know what he does. I don't think he has a plan. I understand that there are people who think he's a mastermind. I don't think he has a plan. I think he's changing things depending on who tells him what on a given day. I think now he's listening, thank goodness, to Bessent as opposed to Navarro, but tomorrow might be Navarro. I mean, you cannot, this is not a plan, okay? A plan would have been, okay, we want to get China down on certain tariffs, so we're going to work with our allies first. We're going to do this. We're going to go to Vietnam, Cambodia. We're going to put some pressure on them because we don't want China using them. And then you just go against China, the specific things you want. What you don't do is pick a fight with the entire world, but I think he thought it was going to work. I think he's so used to being the biggest bully in the room that he never thought, to be honest, that other people wouldn't go along with this and just go like, oh, great, America, we're going to give into everything you want. And so he's floundering. I mean, nobody can tell me, what did we do? We said tariffs on everybody, 10%, 40%, tariffs on Canada, and Mexico, 60%, 40%. I'm going to give everybody else 3 months. Oh, wait, China, it's going to go up to 145, 245. Oh, now it's down. Now I'm not going to do it. I'm going to fire Jerome Powell. No, I'm not going to fire Jerome Powell. This is not strategy. What this is I think Trump is looking at the markets, looking at consumer sentiment, and looking at his approval rating and going like, whoa, better do something because it's not going the way I want. So he's changing his plan, but he didn't have, the only plan was to bully people into, just sort of doing what he wanted. And when that didn't work, what has he been doing? Every single day, you're telling me this is good for America? We've made all these enemies. People don't like us anymore. They prefer China, which is insane, right? And our allies are looking at us like, what the hell? You can never be trusted again. Our global standing has gone down. This cannot be a plan, okay? Because if this is a plan, it's literally the worst plan I've ever heard. And I think all of you have suggested that Donald Trump is smarter than that. And I think he actually is. So there's no plan. He had a plan, it didn't work, and now he's just improvising. God save us from his improvising. All right, we have, one second, we have Mother on CX that wants to hop in.
Yeah, but I want Diana to respond to
I'm good. I don't need to go.
She said something, and then we go.
Thank you, Jonathan. I just need Tara to tap into Theater Tara, because look, what if it's not a plan? He said a concept of a plan. A plan has to have a concept before it can materialize. So let's go with the play, all right? He's the freaking director. He's the producer. He's the star. He's the one that has to improvise. He's the one that has to clean house. What else do we want other than somebody to come in who felt the government was weaponized against him and we have some business to take care of? Like, and he's not only, you guys are acting like what? Like China was supposed to come and say, oh, okay, here you go, Puppy Trump. Here's everything you want. No, China's not going to say that. That's going to make China look weak as hell. They would never do that. What we don't know is what's going on in the background. Because at the end of the day, If someone's going to give the world a good old reset, then let it be the United States of Americans, not cats. Back to you, Jonathan.
Oh, wait. Can I just say one thing about that? When you write the play, write the music, star in the play, and direct it, you know what it's called? A vanity project. And usually it's a piece of shit. Okay? So this is what's happening. He is the star of his own show, but it's a terrible show that nobody would invest in. And in fact, no one is. Thank you.
Counter. Here's the difference, Tira. This is in front of a live and active audience. Very much like the difference between regular podcast and what's being done here in DTN. It's different. It ignites.
None of whom are paying a nickel to see this show. Let's not get real here. It's a free movement.
Where's that sound effect, Jonathan? You are so.
It's not about the money, you guys. It's about the movement.
What? We're gonna make a CH. I want to say I want to go back on the CH.
Go ahead, Chad. So I was going to say that, you know, going back to it, one of the big reasons it's failing miserably is, like I said earlier, this isn't America.
Wait, this is the guy that spoke for like 18 minutes and then I spoke again? Is that the same guy?
No, it's not the same guy.
Okay, go ahead.
No, he's on stage.
No, I don't know who that is.
Boy, your internet is bugging up.
So then, that guy, China, they had an organized effort. Xi Jinping, he has everything down. Everybody in China is on the same page. When they said they're going to war, every single person is on the same page. When Trump says he's going to war, his advisors don't know what's going on. His donors don't know what's going on. Everybody knocks on his door like, bro, can you like tone it down? Nobody knows. Nobody agrees to it. All the Fortune 500 businesses, the CEOs are flying to China and saying, hey, listen, we don't really need that. I know he might be a mean person, but I want to do business with you. Look at all the people flying in. NVIDIA, he flew into China wearing a suit. He doesn't do suits. He wears shorts and all that. They're suited up, trying to kiss their ass. That's what's going on.
Interesting. Good stuff. And true. CH, who's that? Jay next? Is it Jay? Who's next over?
Jay just spoke. But if I could just add this real quick, it's just 5 seconds.
The CEO, the CEO of the founder of NVIDIA.
And what is he saying? Because he wore a suit to the meeting,
he flew to China. What does
it mean to you that you wore a suit?
He flew to China. He flew to China to negotiate personally, one-on-one. He didn't care about what Trump said.
He had to go to China because 20% of his bottom line in revenue come from the Southeast Asia market specifically.
What does the suit have to do with it? I'm just trying to understand.
He acts like a lot of the CEOs here, they act like they're pro-America, but then when it gets down to business, they wear the suit to go to China. For U.S., they'll come to their office in boxers.
Oh, okay. They go to their office.
Did he have pockets for you?
That's all about the boxers.
It's made in China too, but
Yep. So Jay, go ahead, Jay, jump in there.
Yeah, no, that was just it. I mean, nobody, not the businessmen in America, not everybody. I mean, Trump's not the only billionaire in America. A lot of billionaires disagree with what he's doing. So I don't see how he's well, of course he's a stable genius, but I guess he's going to make everyone else unstable.
All right, who else on the CH?
Why? What did he take away from you? What have you lost?
Look at your, I don't understand the 401. Look at your stock market.
They're just calling to get the
What have you lost,
winner.
buddy? What have you lost? Tell me.
He ain't lost shit. He don't have shit.
Well, there you go. I voted for Trump.
Hold on, Nick, please.
Thank you.
If you voted
What
for
did
Trump,
you lose then?
you know what this
What did you lose?
Lost a lot of feelings.
What did you gain? I'm asking you, what did you?
I haven't lost or gained anything. I'm not even depending on the bar for me.
Thank you.
America is losing.
You're still winning though.
Losing the legal immigrants. Let me deport Sir Jew. Just
let me put
him on that fucking plane.
Well, Grant, thank you.
Leaving on a bad plane.
Can't get rid of Sir Jew.
You don't want me to speak. You don't want me to speak, Grant.
No, go ahead.
Sing it, Grant. Sing it.
Hit it.
Yeah. You're a big
very good marketer, and that's why I respect you. I do respect you very, very much. And that's why I take your submission with a grain of salt, because I respect your business acumen, and I'm not going to knock your hustle.
Yeah, I respect
you know, but I still know that there are some personal interests in there. But let me go to what we have done so far. Okay, hopefully we can get it together someday. But look at where we are. Okay, we have alienated our allies. We have so far lost the Boeing $20 billion deal, 20 years $1 billion deal. We lost that. We have lost agricultural meat industry to Australia. We have lost Chinese enforcement of American intellectual property rights. We have lost Japan and South Korea's influence to China, at least mercantilely, even though we have our military bases there. We have lost that influence to them. We have increased Chinese resolve to encroach into Taiwan. That is growing. Okay, we have impelled China to support Putin's war. You're going to hear this in about a day or two, that they are supporting Putin's war. Okay, and we have also compromised American credibility and influence in leadership. And we have done all this without China coming on the negotiating table. Where is the positivity here?
Yeah, so what have we gained, Sir Jude? Start naming off all the investment of offshore companies coming in to invest in the United States. How many trillions of dollars are coming to invest because we have a strong president right now?
Yeah, including some of them from those countries that you say we lost deals from, like Japan. So I don't know what you're talking about. The Japan is leaning towards the United States.
Why?
It's leaning towards China.
They hate America. Guys, if you hate your country so bad, why do you live here? You hate your country so bad, why do you live here?
I don't think, one second. I don't think anyone hate America, Cindy. I think actually the ability to speak against America is what makes us uniquely American.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the ability to actually speak American is what makes us uniquely American.
Well, Jonathan, I mean, Sir Jude just said how much we lost and what we lost. And what's interesting is nobody talks about what we've gained.
But we have we really gained it yet?
Have we really lost it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Says we've lost credibility around the world and we're not looked at as a world leader. Bullshit. I'm sorry, 90 days, you're not going to lose credibility in 200 years in 90 days. I don't care who you have at the helm.
We didn't have credibility for 20 years.
Because we had a president that was auto-penning and not making any decisions, and he had a team behind him, and he
Trump was
auto-penning government. So if you really look at this, Jonathan, you and I, you both know that when you have weak leadership, you've got to come in with a sense of strength, and you've got to come in with resolve, and you've got to come in with power. Because you know what? Too many times we got walked all over on the world stage because we had a guy who was shitting his pants on camera. So you can't deny that, dude. And you know what? I don't blame Trump one bit for coming in the way he's coming in hot. He's coming in, he's moving quick, and guess what? If you can't keep up, no big deal. And you think it's costing the American people this, that, and the other. We just heard last night in here, somebody lost $150,000 and they had $250,000 left in less than 60 days. And like 3 days he lost it. Maybe that's true. But you know what? We have to be smart as Americans because guess what? We don't depend on our government for our own success. So I don't know what the hell everybody in the chat and everybody here every night keeps bitching about. You guys have to understand that the more you depend on your government and the more you care about the decisions on something you have no control over, the worse you're going to be and the more toxic you're going to become and the more negative and critical you are of other people and yourself. And it doesn't better your life one bit. The American dream is to build prosperity. You can do it without your government. And that's the problem. Nobody's wanting to take responsibility for their own self. They just want to blame their own damn government. And it's so freaking pathetic.
So you gotta hit them with that quote from JFK. Ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country.
I love that
Boom, Christopher. That's my guy right there. He's being stormed all the way.
Hallelujah. Remark. That is not that would be a Republican remark today.
That's not, Cindy. It was a dumb. Why you guys no, it is what. All right, you guys claim every Democrat that you want to claim and repudiate. But once again, it's a Democrat remark. It was said by a Democrat. But anyway, once again, folks, you guys come on. JFK a Republican. So there you guys are.
We got to give the Democrats something they can relate to.
You don't think that today?
No, he wouldn't. No, he wouldn't. Okay.
Really? Give me why not?
No, his brother Teddy, right up to the day he died, was a staunch Democrat. Matter of fact, his family right now, for the most part, all of, with the exception of RFK Jr., are Democrats. So that's not.
Okay, that party's long gone. Okay.
No, okay. But once again, they're all here. They're all here, and they're all Democrats.
Ted lived in Massachusetts. Come on, stop.
Okay, JFK lived in Massachusetts.
Of course they did. They lived all in Brooklyn.
Okay, exactly. So what are you talking about? You're arguing. Thank you for making my point. Then. Okay, if that's the qualifier. If that's the qualifier. But hey guys, real quick.
Wait a minute, hold on. Wasn't Ted Kennedy? Isn't he the one that went over the bridge?
Massapequa.
And what happened to his girlfriend?
She died. She drowned.
So
what's the point? Yeah, what's your
point?
No, what's the point?
That's what I said.
But what's the point about JFK? JFK, let me tell you something.
Not JFK.
No. You said that JFK would basically be a Republican now?
Yes, that's what she said.
So, Cindy, JFK was opposed just with his full fiber to Soviet communism, right? He hated Putin. He would have hated Putin. He would have been totally against Putin going into Ukraine and doing what he did. He would never have sucked up to him. That was number one. That was one of his biggest. I don't understand what you're saying. He was also a huge advocate for democratic values, individual liberties, things like that. Okay, he believed in the Constitution. What are you saying?
The Democratic Party that is today.
It was the Republican Party. The thing is,
the Republican Party, I cannot tell you how many times, and you've said it yourself, Cindy, I don't care about the law, the Constitution. I wish we could just do this faster.
I do care. No, that's not what I said.
But what I'm trying to say is, but JFK would have never agreed to making these sort of moves because he did believe firmly in the Constitution and the laws. He would never have done these things. I really think you're wrong about what you're saying about him.
Because he lived a very good moral life, didn't he, honey? Let's think about that.
Of course not. Of course not.
Wow. Why are you bringing Trump?
What does that have to do with? But what does that have to do with political opinions? Okay, he was a child of the Cold War in essence, right? So maybe he would have changed completely, but I don't see any reason to say he would have been a Republican now.
I don't know. And listen, I just said that's a Republican remark. Don't ask what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. I'm sorry. That line says it all.
These lefts don't want that right now. They want everything handed off to them.
Yeah. So anyway, guys, real quick, guys. With that being said, guys, hey, thank you for, guys, if you're listening at home, first and foremost, this is Debate the News, the podcast. And we come to you nightly on Chatter Social, the app, guys. Chatter Social, you guys can download Chatter Social, either the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, free of charge, doesn't cost you a nickel to do so. We have Debate the News and a bunch of other wonderful shows that you guys can come and participate live and every day. Chatter Social app, once again, download it at the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. If you are here right now, guys, we're knocking out of the park. You guys are really doing a great job. Up top, we have the link. The link up top has the podcast for Debate the News. Do me a favor, guys. Follow the podcast, okay, and download a few episodes, all right? Once again, if you want to join us live, download the Chatter Social app if you're listening to us at home right now. And we're going to keep this thing going because we have a lot going on because, when you brought up JFK and, Tara brought up basically Soviet Union and everything else, guys, right now, our president, okay, and we're going to go back to China, our president right now is down Ukraine's throat, trying to get Ukraine to concede Crimea to Russia, pretty much, and concede other territories as well. Pretty much that makes, if they were to listen to Trump and concede, it would pretty much make Ukraine insolvent. It pretty much gets rid of Ukraine, all right? But that's what he's pushing for. He's pushing to reward Russia for the invasion, their aggression against Ukraine, all right? And so right now, as we speak, the Russian, as they said, speaking and said, hey, we want peace and we're looking for a peace deal. They are bombing the hell out of Kiev. Okay, that's the Ukrainian capital, which is far away. All right, from any of the disputed territories. They're bombing and droning. They're doing bomb attacks, and drone attacks. Okay, missile attacks and drone attacks right now in Kiev. Okay, hurting civilians. All right, that's once again, we're in the middle of quote unquote peace negotiations, and they go away from the war zone and go to the capital Kiev and bomb them with missiles and drones. But yet, our president is saying that the Russians want peace, but Zelensky doesn't. While the Russians are bombing Kiev right now and drone attacking.
Is that Trump's fault too?
No, what's Trump's fault is the messaging that Trump's putting out there. All right. And the fact, and the one second.
Started under Biden.
Yeah, I get that, but here's the thing, and the fact that he's trying to get Kiev. He wants them to see Crimea and other territories. All right, so Russia goes in and Russia walks out with territory. What does Ukraine walks away with? Nothing.
With the peace.
It's
all our damn money.
Yeah. So that's where we are with this. So that's what's happening right now, guys, as we speak. That's going on, the bombing over there, as well as when you also going back, China is rubbing their nose. They posted out there, tweeted out there, Trump chicken out. Over 150 million views. Okay, they put the photograph. They showed Trump. It's like they put his memes out and said Trump chickened out, and over 150 views. And now Trump chicken out is going viral in China and all over the world. And that's the Chinese, pretty much, guys. Once again, Trump has not sat down with the Chinese. If anyone said that the Chinese have sat down with Trump or started opening up negotiations with Trump, they're lying. That hasn't happened. The Chinese have not responded. Trump has been begging the Chinese to respond. The Chinese haven't responded. He's been upping the tariffs to try to get the Chinese to respond. The Chinese haven't responded as of yet. The only response China has done is said to other countries that if you guys make any trade deals that is harmful to China with the U.S., that they would be dealt with. China's been the grown up in the room. They've been the grown up in the room. Trump has been yelling, screaming, and everything else. And finally today, he was like, my bad. We're going to work this out. We're going to do it. That's too much. He now, like I said earlier, it's like he's negotiating with himself. He tried to get China to come to the table, China refused to come to the table. It appears now that Trump is trying to negotiate with himself. That's where we are. But China right now, as it stands, folks, they're out there having a fun time. They're laughing, and they're out there tweeting that Trump chickened out and is going viral. Trump blink and propaganda.
John, you talk like that makes you horny, honey, buddy. Like
that doesn't make me happy. My man, please mute up. All right, you're not a main part of the show.
Happy.
No,
happy.
No, actually, Cindy, it didn't get me happy. Okay, I'm delivering the news. I'm sorry. I'm not delivering somberly. I'm not.
Okay, fine. Go any way you want. Your room. Let me ask you a question. How do you know who's talking to who behind the scenes? Are you in the White House? I'm not in the White House.
No, Cindy, I haven't. But once again,
but you're saying.
Okay, here we go, Cindy.
Confidence.
Cindy, I'll tell you why. Because they came out today. They came out today and said, "Yeah, we're starting talks with China." One person said that. The other person came out and said, "No, we're not. We haven't started talks with China." Then they said, we're going to work something out. We're going to start off with low-level talks. Okay, this is this is playing out in the public. China, and this is all coming from one side, the Trump administration. The Chinese administration right now.
Hang tight. JB will be right back in just a moment.
Are we able to like communicate in between us while we're waiting, or?
Yeah, go ahead. If you have something to say, go ahead. When JB pops back on, we'll meet.
Right on. So what do you think, Jay?
No, I just think that, it's, like I said, right now, if Trump says
demonstrably true. So I think about that a lot, that young kids are shocked by certain things and not others, and it feels weird. Christina, I saw your hand.
Yeah, I wanted to comment, so then a question. There have been patterns, there's like a pendulum swings from parenting patterns of like the parent who spanked, then ended up having children who then had time out, right? And then I don't remember the next one, but then there was teaching children about their own emotions and how to regulate so that they can better manage their own and understand themselves, let alone understand their peers. Like I've seen videos of 4 and 5 year olds that are helping one another or helping younger siblings or even responding to a teacher. And so there is more sensitivity there, but I think it's because they're better equipped. And I've also heard about horror movies, for example, that because we are still cave people living in a technologically advanced world, we're not equipped for the non-danger of the savannah, right? And there is a utility, and not for me, but for some people, to go to the horror movie and have the tension like torqued to a certain extent and then released, torqued and then released. And so there is utility there. And obviously, like I think it's going to be different for each individual, let alone comparing it to real life. But the last thing I wanted to ask was when we're talking about like the rigidity versus flexibility of identity, or the way I see this is that there's so much rapid change, whether we're talking culture, science, tech, whatever the thing is, that change is happening at a rapid rate. And because we're still cave people, essentially, we're not equipped for that change, but psychologically we try to create coping mechanisms of certainty, of control. And so I wonder if we can synthesize these boxes to have better understanding for more nuance and complexity, or if it's just going to continue in this path of a fight for more quote-unquote certainty, which causes more conflict, or if there's a way out of that.
Yeah, I think there is this line of this fight to make things easy and controlled. I mean, there's also just this level of, I think people tend to fear one of two things predominantly. I think they either fear what they can't control or what they don't understand. And I think there's a lot of truth to that people get very terrified of either. I don't get it. That's scary to me. I think of like, I have family members that, they're very technophobic and they're just terrified of anything with a computer. And then there are other people that feel like, if I can't control it, so I'm really terrified of economics or disease or something else. And I think part of that, especially for people, let's say that they're a little more concerned about things they don't understand or not getting the world, it makes sense that they'd want to try and make things as simple to digest. And then, of course, the opposite, those people that fear what they can't control, they're going to want to make other people live in that same way. And maybe sometimes there's a kind of toxic mix where you have both, right? I want to both understand everything and make it simple like I have, and then I want to control everyone else to live as simply as I want it to be. That seems like a recipe for disaster.
I don't know if you saw the chat. Brian Duffel says he has his.
Oh, hold on. I'm not really watching. Hey, I'm not really moving away from the screen here, so I'm missing some of that for me. Okay. See if that works. If it doesn't, you might need to jump out and jump back in.
It worked. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I think about this a lot. I'm curious, Joe. I think we were talking about this a couple times in the last few months on how when identities and roles change, I think that is one way where authoritarians can really want to come to power and rise, to try and have the ability to prevent that change from what they understood and control. And I think that's one of the reasons why you see this sort of like systemic full court press to take back mechanisms of education and societal acceptance in the media, because if it's, I feel out of control because things are changing. And so it's that reactionary process of something's changing. I don't want it to. I have to stop it, but I can't. It feels inevitable. So I'm going to have to, exert all the possible force I can.
Yeah, the one thing I remember them talking about was the rate of change. Like human beings in general just don't like change. They don't like it. And one thing with technology is it changes so rapidly. And that's one of the things they've got to figure out is how they can have human beings like actually adapt to this rate of change as well too. Because I mean, it's unprecedented and you literally see all sorts of problems. I mean, I think his name is, I'm going to have to look up the name of the book. I think the book is called 21 Lessons, I think, for the 21st Century. Who wrote the book? Okay, yeah, it was Yuval Noah Harari. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. But one of the things he talked about, I remember this book came out, I feel like 2 or 3 years ago, was he talked about technology and like AI. And he talked about how about like 2030, and this was like I said, right in 2021, 2020. He was just talking about the fact that I think he said like half of the jobs that people would be doing by 2030, maybe 2035, hadn't even been created yet. And I was like, that's wild to think about when you think about like what human history has been as far as like jobs and technology and what people have done historically versus how quickly something can be a viable form of employment one day, and then a few years later not be viable at all, and just how human beings are going to deal with that. And I think it's part of what you're seeing with a lot in the West right now is people not really coping well with sort of the changes. I guess you could argue for the world, and that's why you're seeing sort of the blowback against globalization and some of the nostalgia is people not liking that change and seeking out an authoritarian or a strongman, someone to sort of make things that the world sort of feels out of control right now, sort of make it make sense and make it feel safe and make it feel normal again.
Yeah, I don't know how you kind of square this this desire for comfort and what we know with things inevitably changing. I mean, I think of it a lot, this whole conversation about manufacturing, right? And the whole world fighting about who should manufacture where. Whatever this stat is, I know I'm always off by a little bit, but it's like 75% of people think America should have more manufacturing. 65% or something like that think it would cause a benefit for them. Something like 6% or less of people work in manufacturing, and only 2% of people that don't would like a job in manufacturing and think they'd be better off with one. So it's very weird that nobody thinks they should go into manufacturing or wants to, but everybody thinks somebody else should and they would be better off, and we all would be better off if they do. And I think that's that. I'm caught between a couple different mindsets. If they think they're going to get a benefit, but they don't want to do it. It's kind of like, most people would like some sort of safety provided for them, but they don't want to be the one enforcing safety in their communities. And it's kind of like that line, but also I wonder if it's just that people feel like they understand this. Like they feel like they get this and they want this and they feel like this should be happening. I wonder what's going to happen with, technological change. I mean, if you look at, I had a historian friend once tell me, if you look at the way people lived in 1200 and the way people lived in 1500, most of the change just came from weather. Like
the way of life didn't change. They weren't farming in drastically different ways. They didn't have like different metal. It was like, you know, mostly weather and maybe a slightly different church. But even most people didn't go to church. That's a huge misnomer. Like most people were nowhere near a church and didn't interact with it that much. So, you know, the average person, hundreds of years would go by, multiple generations, where father, son, mother, daughter, you know, all this stuff, it would just be passing on what we do. Sustainability was the primary goal. And then it's kind of funny because I don't think we talk about this part about technology because we're so deep in it. We can't, it feels that kind of realist mentality, like this is just the way it is. But technology really, once it starts advancing, rapidly changes itself and advance our society. That's like you have to try and strap on. Like you better grab on for dear life and try and survive because it's going to push forward. But I think part of this, like, you know, things advancing and pushing forward is that change is so rapid, like you said. Like, if you look at how people lived in the 50s versus now, it's very different. But if I look within my lifetime, like the 80s versus now, you know, like something as stupid as but profoundly significant. Like I was trying to explain what a payphone was to somebody. And, you know, you start feeling like this old, I'm thinking, God, this is how my parents, my grandparents felt. But like my great-great-grandparents wouldn't have had anything like that to say. It's like we had roads, we had streets, you know, you were a farmer, you were a carpenter, and we learned the same skill sets. And so with this kind of rapid change within your lifetime, you can see societies completely reorient. And I think that must do something to our sense of stability and grounding and just everything that, you know, within my own lifetime, like the way life is now to when I was a kid has completely changed. But imagine what's going to be like when I'm like an old person. I mean, in my lifetime, I'll probably see 3 or 4 kind of generational shifts. And you know, before a generation was like hundreds of years, you know what I mean? And I wonder what kind of cognitive cost this, or emotional, just kind of like what it means to be a person is going to have.
If I could, the last part, I'm not sure. Yes, things will change a lot. But to your earlier point, when you began your submission about people advocating for more of something in their society, but maybe not enthusiastically wanting to sign up to do it themselves. I mean, I may be a contrarian because I'm willing to sign up for some difficult or dirty jobs if the salary was compensatory with my other roles, let's say. But I think I just wanted to steel man being able to both advocate for more of something in your without necessarily wanting to do it. You mentioned sort of security. I think, yeah, obviously, like people want, especially women, for instance, may want more police, may want more trash men if they live somewhere that's dirty. But, you know, just might physically not feel like they're as specialized or advantageous for a role, that they still want more of that service or product or part of the economy in their society. And I think manufacturing specifically, to me, the biggest argument is a national security one, much more than you know, is this my passion in life to work in a factory, you know, work in a steel factory or something.
Just out of curiosity, Double, like, so you're saying, I mean, I don't know what you do right now, but I'm some sort of white collar job. So you'd be willing to go like work in a factory for the right pay?
Yeah, for like, you know, $250,000 a year, I'd do some hard factory job for sure.
Oh, okay.
And so I would do it enthusiastically, and I would also, you know, I'm a tech pro basically, so I would want to push automation and high tech, you know, aspects of that as much as I possibly could.
See, that's the paradox right there, Joe, right? Is that so many people are like, if factory jobs paid as much as some of the most, like the top 1% of incomes, I would do it. I mean, I think at any job at which you're paying $250,000 a year, and then, you know, the second caveat, and then if a lot of the difficult parts are automated where I don't have to do it, but, would one want to sit there at an assembly line and grab a Torx wrench and turn 3 times every 5 seconds, 8 hours a day? Let alone, like, if we look at internationally, would you do that for $250,000? Would you do that 6 days a week for 9 hours a day? Sit there with a wrench in hand and turn it. You have $250,000 and you have 1 day off a week to go enjoy that $250,000. A lot of people all of a sudden start to say, well, no, and it starts to become, I don't know. I think this is that thing again about identities, right? Like, there's this image of, I would be willing to do this if everything changed. I would be willing to have this identity, or I wonder how this affects people in terms of, talking about tolerance as well, right? I would completely tolerate that because obviously Double's not like I'm lining up to be at a factory. I mean, if they let me do it for $35,000, I'd be tempted because it's such great work. What I'm hearing is I would suffer through this. I am not above that. They just need to pay me like the top 1% of all salaries because I'm a tech bro and I am entitled to $250,000. And I think this is what happens when, we think of tolerance just about people, but it's like what in our life is a tolerable situation. So
no, I mean, look, if I didn't have other options right now, like, if all the tech jobs went away, if I had no possibility of starting a business, that I'd be happy to work for $30,000 a year to support my family and turn a wrench for 9 hours a day, right? It's not about that. You asked me specifically if I would do it. I'm just saying, yes, I would do it, and these are my current other opportunities. But if you remove those other opportunities, I would happily do it for far less.
Well, I was going to say, I think you bring up a good point, Briar, because really two things there. Like, we saw sort of this dynamic when it came to work from home, and we still sort of see it. Like at my company, I was looking at a job, and I was talking to the manager about the job, and she was saying she was saying she got like 15 applicants that were super qualified for this job, and she was having a hard time narrowing it down. And she was saying it was because it was a fully remote job. And like, that's sort of the thing that has sort of, that one of my managers was asking me about when they were talking about talent development. They were like, would you rather, if you had to choose, like, take a like less of a promotion for like a fully remote job? And I was kind of like, well, I make pretty good money. Like, being remote is pretty convenient, saves a lot of time, gives a lot of flexibility. And I was like, like unless it was just a job I had to do, I would probably be like, no, I'm pretty comfortable where I am versus, where people were before the pandemic. And that was sort of, I mean, I've seen posts about this where someone was like, no, I don't want to have to travel as much. I would take less of a job and like be able to enjoy, my family more. All of those things. So I think when we go back to the idea of sort of looking at manufacturing of what it was, I think there's just an element of nostalgia versus people fully understanding what you're signing up for. Now, granted, if manufacturing does come back in any sort of meaningful way, it will not be anything like what people were even historically expecting. It'll be a lot more high tech. I've been in some high tech facilities. There are a lot more robots. It's a lot safer. A lot of them are climate controlled. So it's not like the old assembly lines of the days where, like, I remember I had a manager who told me, I think he graduated from college in like the 80s. So he actually dropped out initially. And his family was from Detroit. And he moved back to Detroit to start working on the assembly line. And he literally said, like, the thing that made the light go off for him of, hey, he didn't want to go and do this anymore was he was screwing in something on the assembly line. And he like cut himself or hurt his hand. And he waved his hand to the manager to say, hey, stop, I've hurt myself. And the manager's like, okay, we'll come see about it. Just keep going. And he was like, oh, like, it's not a situation where if like I get an injury, they're just going to stop the line and like check on me. Like, I'm going to be expected to kind of just suck it up. So that was sort of his realization of, no, like, I'm literally going to go back to school. So he literally like took his last paycheck from there like that week later and went and enrolled back in school and graduated and got his degree. So I just, all of that to say, I think there's just a lot of misconceptions around it. And I think people sort of miss the trade-offs and sort of what you get in a more service-based economy.
I think it's great. I mean, look, if we could just have only service-based and be guaranteed there were no threats ever to our supply chains or any of the stuff that we want in our lives, of course, like if we basically get almost a free lunch on manufacturing, that'd be great. I just think we're putting our future at great risk if we don't keep it domestic or near shore at least. Like, you can manufacture a lot in Mexico, for instance, but I think that's fine. But yeah, if you're relying on things in Asia, like I'm not sure that the oceans are going to be safe for transportation going forward. So I think a lot of people just take for granted the last 30 years and pretend like, oh yeah, this will go on forever. We'll never be at war. We'll never have a problem sailing the oceans like safely and everything. And that is a very strong assumption that I think is very foolish.
Yeah, I think there's this desire that most people have to have life organized in a certain way, but not to do that themselves. But we want things organized that way because I think a lot of times I say we, and I know I actually think it's something I should stop doing. A lot of people mention that. It's a good point. It's who's the we we're talking about. But in modern American culture and a lot of developed nations, people aren't willing to do that work. Like a lot of people will come and say they are, but until they've gone to a field, like there's a sign right now, it's being circulated pretty broadly that in Louisiana, they're exporting a lot of these migrant workers there because they're very openly hostile towards immigrants because it's a region that traditionally doesn't rely on a lot of migrant labor compared, every state does, but comparatively less so. But they have apparently blueberries there. And those blueberries are very, very intense work. It's a 9-hour day. You work I think it's 7 days a week for 6 to 8 weeks. So it's just every day you're out there picking, and they expect you to work 11 to 12 hours, and it pays $10 an hour. So they're putting out all these signs everywhere, need people. And so far, I think they've gotten 7 people. And this is an industry that's going to need, in the thousands to tens of thousands. And so there's a panic in that state. What do we do when we need this massive workforce? And there's all these people saying they want to work, and we're paying well above minimum wage, and nobody's willing to do it. And so they go conversely, well, that's fine, but then blueberries are going to go up to, the cost of eggs and stuff like that. And everybody's not willing to tolerate that either. And I think there's this line that we don't really feel comfortable saying, but we put, going back to identity, we are willing with certain identities to be like a subclass of human. And we accept that it's tolerable for them to suffer in ways we would never suffer. And somehow, I think there are some people that morally feel very compromised by it. But I think there's a lot of others that just don't care, or even what I think is actually more perverse is they have accepted a kind of morality where that's actually just and virtuous. And I think that I actually see a lot of hypocrisy broadly because you hear all this about oh, we can make this work. And usually what happens is when people change this, it just collapses because we will not tolerate broadly somebody taking more money from us than we want. That seems to be the standard by which we judge our lives and our value. And, when you look at that, people just don't buy the product if they think it's too expensive.
I'm curious what inspired you, or I think there's truth to what you're saying, at least among broad swathes of, let's say, the American population. But I'm curious, was there something particular that inspired you when you saw this disconnect? To whatever extent it does describe me, I can tell you that at least consciously I tried to not think that way. Like I said, I yearn for doing more hard work, work with my hands, my parents never taught me how to do handiwork, for instance. They just would pay someone. My uncle taught me because he was much more handy, so I spent time with him, and we did all kinds of work on his house, and I really appreciated it. And I like to think of myself as someone who would be willing to work hard with my hands, do physical labor, dirty jobs, and whatever. I just happen to make a lot of money sitting behind a laptop, sipping coffee, traveling the world. It's just how it worked out. But I don't think, whether my life looks from the outside like what you're describing, my mentality, I really don't think is that way. But I'm sure that there are many people for whom that is the mentality. But I'm curious what inspired you.
Wait, double. So would you be willing? You'd be willing to give up your lifestyle, and I guess also caveat it with, you'd be willing to not experience, sitting.
Or a Rasul or a Nabi. So is your position that the Nabi or the Rasul would basically have absolute ilm al-ghaib? Or with regards to knowledge, what's the...
That would make the country that I feel fealty to be more secure for the long term, so my kids can be secure in their lives and everything for the long term. I am okay with policies that adjust the economy such that the blueberries cost 4 times as much and whatever, so that things are secure versus, and then if then, whatever. I'm for things that would push me towards then needing to work physical labor in a factory or whatever directionally versus, and I'm willing to do it myself. I'm starting to look at, what manufacturing jobs might there be, because I think that's the future, especially robotics and all this stuff. It's not just, I've been building apps, been building websites, but I think
please don't scroll.
I'm moving towards automation, physical automation, robotics, etc. And I'm really getting much more interested in material science.
Just one thing I want to make. Please don't scroll. I'm just trying to become a big content creator one day, but I have no supporters. So if you have the chance.
Broad, but to just for the people that are coming in, 3 or 4 times in the last couple of days, the paradox. One was in Steve's room. The other was in
Yeah, I think they expected it 5-15.
And we're either starting the paradox of intolerance.
This week only, all Domino's mini price pizzas are 50% off when you order online. That's right, all of them. Pizza.
What ends up
Welcome to Soapbox Interview from South Media. I'm Max Pizza, and today I'm here.
I don't like this group of people. I'm going to kill them. And
joining us now is Illinois Republican co-chair Karen Delmar.
People, that's I have to.
All Republicans in Illinois were given an opportunity to join the Illinois.
Karl Popper's.
Joining us live on set is the Palatine Township Republican.
Nazism, fascism. Being the most intolerant group in society. So to have this kind of organized structure, we need to say no. These are our boundaries. And we don't cross them.
Okay, we are here at the April 21st Republican Cook County GOP event, and so they're only letting committee men in, committee people in to the event to watch Aaron Delmar there get inaugural. Really, it's a shoe-in. But this is at the Celebration Room in Moretti's. This is Jefferson Park News.
Physics and in society, etc.
This is Jefferson Park News. So they're not letting the public
into the cosmos are defined, and these two things kind of play with each other, right? Because if
we are here
there's an argument going on right now in the Supreme Court about whether parents should be able to opt out of their children learning about different people, and that their children should be taught to accept them. So the idea is that the parents are intolerant of this. They're intolerant of an educational system, and they expect the school systems are not tolerating doing all this extra work and accommodation to allow for a child and parent to not like what's being taught, so their kid gets special treatment compared to other kids if they choose. And so it's the line of what sort of intolerance should we accept, what makes a better society. And I think what's happening more and more is that we try and say there are things that are immutable. It's like there's a law or there's a rule or there's something we can always follow. So I think I was just thinking of those two and their intersection and watching different rooms on Clubhouse, which always pop up, and just thinking of how these play. And this is the room where, for people that are more into the poetry side or the storytelling or anything else, we're open to that. But one thing I want to avoid, one thing that I'm intolerant of in this space is as a debate coach, no bad debate here. If you want to do a good debate, we can't even do it. We don't have judges at times. So I like to keep it discussing. But yeah, that was the genesis of the room. I
Kind of giving us a short spiel about these hardware
weapons. I was kind of vibing to where you were going.
Before that, it reminded me of something I learned recently. There's a study, and I think this then applies to all humans, but there's, they did this test first with children. You ask a child to help in one control group, and in the other group, they asked them about being a helper. And most of the kids, 4 times more
Civically religious experiences will always omit something and fail to reach completely adequate conclusions.
Would tell me to F off to them, and it would not work. You give me autonomy, I will opt to help before you even ask me, but don't use language like helper. So this was fascinating to me. I do think that there is something inherent to how we understand ourselves and how we interact. However, I think that the ideas of identity have been weaponized, amplified, and divided, which makes it harder to have conversations about these things. But I have been toying with a thought experiment, which I tried to say in the chat, about I read a paper on the web that talked about how PhD individuals or anyone with significant kinds of power experiences a kind of quote-unquote brain damage. What happens is that as you climb the ladder, the skills required to do that, empathy, compassion, collaboration, etc., you no longer need those same skills at the top. So those connections in your brain begin to atrophy. You create new connections for the new skills that you need to acquire, but you create this kind of brain damage that is reversible, right? And this is fascinating, but I also thought, okay, well, now we've got potential problems with respect to systems, how humans operate. How do you account for that? And especially when we're asking people to do cognitive empathy. This is when I started toying with the idea of what if we had job rotations, and it would have to be figured out some fancy way, maybe AI or whatever, of creating a dynamic where someone does menial labor and some form of an esteemed position, so that they can swap between them and not have their brains solidify in this one way, but also in swapping back and forth over a period of time, however long that might be, you get a different perspective. You invest in yourself as a leader, but on the top, you understand those beneath you, right? And you understand the problems that are there. And then as you switch back and forth, then you can create a different way of existing for yourself, but also invest in the collective, invest in the culture of that company or the culture on the whole, and develop new patterns. However, because a lot of times status and reputation are so important, and we define those in so many different ways, that if you did something like this, it immediately dissolves those social hierarchies. If you identify yourself according to the acronym after your name, how much money you make, the job title you hold, if you see yourself as better because you are an astrophysicist versus the garbage collector, but if you did both of those things, then who you are becomes more about your character and substance than these outside external ideas. And it would be a radical shift, but I also can see utility, but also problems with it.
And by the way, welcome, Aria. Stevens, I invite you to the stage. Feel free to come up if you like. If there's others I don't know yet as well, so feel free to come on up. Yeah, Christina, I actually like this. I lot of times it's about leadership. So I actually think a lot of times I'll mention that, I think there are deep problems of democracy. And so people often think I'm part of this rising, trend of fascist authoritarianism that's popping up everywhere. But I'm kind of the opposite. I'm a big fan of autocracy. I think there's something about the type of person that runs for power and gets those upper echelons and starts to ascend. And I think that they get addicted to it and they have to live their life in a certain way. Just the routine of I wake up every morning, I fundraise for X number of hours. I must go to X number of charity balls. I don't go to regular restaurants anymore. In fact, I usually have drivers and people that take care of me, and I have assistants. And, if my kid needs something, I send out the person to get it for me. That changes how you live so much that sometimes I almost feel like there's a line between when I would work with people like this, it would feel like they were a different species. You don't live the way I do. You don't work and clean and maintain a household or something like that. You have a colony around you that provides for you. You're your own economy and ecosystem in a way I'm just not. And I think I would rather, more than I really want people to do different jobs. I wish we had leaders like that. The leaders were selected at random from different class, as long as they're capable in some very basic, standardized way. We could just judge character, aptitude, maybe capability a little bit, and then say, hey, let's draw our leaders at random so we don't get this other class of people. And then they serve for a while and go back to their normal lives. I think, when you talk to presidents, that famous line of, how much can this really cost? So that joke for Arrested Development, what can a banana really cost, Michael? More than $1,000? I don't think so. Just the divorced from reality. And then we get leaders like Trump and others going oh, well, eggs are only $1 or $2. Go to a grocery store. We can all live and feel this every single day. But they can say that because they don't know. They're getting reports. They don't have that groundedness. I remember the other day one trying to describe pumping gas. There's a whole class of people that are in politics that have almost never pumped gas in their entire life. They've just never pumped a gas tank. They don't know how it works, how you pay, how you interact. How can we expect them to know what we need if their lives are so different from ours? This Vicky, Mama, go.
Yes, that's both of you are making such valid points that if you don't read and don't study, you won't think about. Christina, that just opened up my mind for some, wow, you just took me there. Yes, how can you understand something that you never experienced? And then what did your brain do? I think you said it started to solidify away from empathy, away from, you don't need those survival skills. You don't need anything. You get anything you want. You don't have to think. You don't have to feel. You don't have to do anything. But just do whatever you want to do. And then the point that Bree was speaking about too, on the I'm not a speller, but autocracy, which means, the government does whatever benefits them. Nobody's loyal or, autocracy. I don't know how to spell, but I think it's an interesting word. Thank y'all so much for that insight.
Yeah, I've always wanted to do a room like this on Clubhouse. There used to be some like this, but I think a really good thought exercise when you're criticizing something. Excuse me, I took a bite of food there. I think a really good thought exercise is to say, what would this look like in an ideal world? So if we had a perfect world, okay, you're criticizing how government works, how society works, how some sort of norm works, how art works. What would the ideal be? And I think, I've sat down and really sitting down and taking the time to say, what would an ideal government be? What would an ideal society be, an ideal economy? Because usually what we just do is we listen to what somebody else has said. And I think I was talking about this earlier, it's just part of my identity, my character, that I really try not to lump myself in with groups I don't fully agree with. So I've never seen a government that I'm like, yes, that embraces all the ideas I want. I think they're absolutely all flawed. think often, I think back to like what type of a society would I want. When I did it, I really felt like a society that forces people into leadership who are capable and then tries to raise its citizenship where they are capable so they can, anybody could step up and be a leader. That's the type of society I'd want to live in. That it was taking serious every child so that they had the capabilities where they could, or at least have that opportunity where they could come to power and try and lead things. And the second level that I really thought about it was like, I think one of the problems with democracy, fascism, any sort of authoritarian oligarchy, one-party rule, is that you end up with the people that want to be in power. And a couple, prominent Greek philosophers, I think not the least of which is Aristotle, there's this famous line, those that deserve power seek it the least, and those that desire power the most are least deserving. And so I think we're caught right now in this kind of, eternal struggle of having these corrupt leaders almost everywhere, constantly. And why is this? Like, most teachers I know aren't that corrupt. Most doctors I know aren't that corrupt. How is it that every freaking politician, it feels like, every other one is ending up in jail with all this corruption? And that's because the systems around them encourage that corruption, right? It's not an unnatural response. They're doing something predictable given the nature of the systems around them. And I feel like the only way of really addressing this sort of thing seriously is trying to change the systems at the heart. And I think one of the things they all have in common is they're letting the people that want power the most go after it. And the idea is, it's this very social Darwinistic idea of, the people that seek power, those are going to be the best people. And the ones that are desperate for it and will do anything to get it, that's the skill we want from a leader. And I think we've gotten the world we deserve from that. And I think you're going to have a different mentality if you're going to try and deal with that. It's just, we can't keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result and then being mad about it.
That's called lunacy. But there's no perfect, Garden of Eden. But this is what we're supposed to work towards. But you can't work towards, living in a peaceful world that everybody gets along when you still have people that have and have not. There has to be a medium where people at least have what they need. And they can at least live a humble life without starving and undignified and scrabbling for just a crumb of bread. I mean, you have to have something that they can hold on to. And people just have taken the land. Nobody, was allowed to own land in certain places. Only the government. And it's done this way, for a reason, even here, but it's done in more say a way that you really can't see it as much as you can in some countries. You can't own land. You can here in the States, you can't own water. If water runs under someone's land, and that water could sprout up in a well, and it's going under somebody else's land, it's going to be a big fight, a big controversy about it. So people gotta be able to own something to be able to put a stake down that something belongs to them, and not everything belongs to the government or the oligarchies or the higher ups.
I think that's an interesting point because identity extends so far that we create identity around objects, and we I actually haven't thought of this before, but I suppose ownership is a form of identity, right? Like, I'm now saying that this thing exists, but it only exists subject to my rule, and now its identity is defined by my control and not yours, right? So it goes back to that identity so often being about the other. And it does seem like there's some essential way of as long as we're having some sort of private ownership of property, it's really saying the identity of this object, thing, concept, whatever, it's now intrinsically linked to me and can't be separated. So maybe these same problems of identity start to play back into ownership and again, what will we tolerate on who owns the thing and can happen.
It's like they keep moving the goalposts when the port gets close, then they move the goalposts. The port gets a little closer, then they move the goalposts. Then they move the goalposts. Well, you owe this because you borrowed this. Then you can never stop paying me for that because now, it's like it's never enough. You have to let people have, a way to be comfortable. Even if they live in humility, they still have to have the things that they need. And that's what the point is. And if you own something and my water can't cross your land because you can't own it because it's coming from my land, or if a bird drops a seed on your crop over by my crop, now I'm growing your crop. I mean, it just gets to be where we're supposed to be stewards of this land, of this country, of this earth. And we have to learn how to do that without all of this and letting people that have no idea, no clue, no spirituality, just come and just step up and take charge. And that's what's happening. It just takes stepping up and taking charge. And the humble, we just sit there like, what are we going to do? Have conversations with no power.
And just a quick welcome to so many friends and people I know and recognize, and some that I don't yet know that well. Feel free to come on up here and, share and talk. That's the whole reason this place exists. One thing that I really appreciate is I think there's a way of talking about this to try and win something. But I think having a conversation that's genuinely centered around like an empathy and care, it actually exposes how hard this is because, I think a lot of this I'm starting to notice this conversation is consistently coming back to how much work something takes. And that, we're finite creatures. We're all going to die, spoiler alert. And, given that we only have so much time and energy and only so much life, how much work are we willing to do to have this kind of nuanced, fully fledged out world where everybody's getting their needs met and at the same time they're not rigid in their identities and we can understand and we're tolerating just the right things but not too much. It's hard. It's like legitimately hard. It's not just a hard problem that you can dissolve simply. And so I think that makes some people want to run from the problem. Like solving the problem is avoiding it. I don't know. I mean, I think sometimes it's almost an act of cowardice that we want a quick and easy answer. I think most of these things don't have that. At least that's been my experience in life. And I think sometimes we're, for the sake of quick and easy, we'll take something that actually makes our life worse, which is, it feels like a paradox in and of itself. Christine, I saw you jump in.
Yeah, and in attempting to understand everything that's happening in the world, more specifically in the U.S. and so on, I have been exploring the topic of cognitive empathy. I remember reading a study some years ago that said those who have a preference for hierarchies have reduced cognitive empathy, and this got me down a path. Well, then how do we? I don't think you can make people do anything, right? And I started really exploring cognitive empathy because there's usually a judgment that comes from even the title of that study, right? But when I started to explore the idea of cognitive empathy, there usually is a selfish component, because the ones who prefer social hierarchies, for example, if they do cognitive empathy, it dissolves the hierarchy. Because they have to maintain the hierarchy to maintain the status and reputation, right? And if we can recognize that, this isn't necessarily a moral thing, although I would prefer not to have them. This can be just a human thing. Because if you find all of the reasons why humans do the effort of cognitive empathy, because it's not the kind where like one person yawns and you yawn too. This is the stuff that requires you to actually put yourself in their shoes, not yourself in their shoes, but trying to see through their eyes, right? That requires a lot of effort and a lot of work. But if we can recognize that humans are incentivized by, I'll use the word selfish, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a judgment, more like it's self-oriented reason, right? Then we can recognize, okay, well then how do we plug into each of those, almost social engineering, like figuring out, okay, if this is the motivation, and we recognize the need for cognitive empathy, then how do we provide the motivation for this person who's going to have this kind of motivation to do it, and this other kind, right? Rather than it becoming, because I don't know that there is such a thing as an altruistic cognitive empathy, right? I think we all have ideas of who we are, reasons why we do it, but it's not necessarily altruistic. It comes back to us. And if we can recognize it, then it doesn't have to be this impossible puzzle or thing, right? We can sort of systemize it. It can be complex because humans are complex. And I think there's potential potential depedestalizing empathy, but also using it to be able to create something different.
I think it boils down also to like who's willing to. I had a lot of things to do today. Universal law, man's law. There's got to be a meeting of universal law and man's law, and that is what's missing. Man's law is avoiding the responsibility of the universal law, but they want to tax the people that don't obey their laws, to the hilt, where we end up with nothing and no way to defend ourselves or even, make ends meet. At the same time, they are breaking all of God's laws in the universe, and they're doing everything wrong with that. So what do we have? We have nothing to fight with. We have to start somewhere.
I mean, Mama, I think I've only heard one piece of poetry, and I mentioned how I struggle with poetry and lyrics, but you have the power to move people, to make them feel something. And for some people, that is the on-ramp to doing the cognitive empathy. You don't know necessarily who it is or what's going to fit their specific lock, but you have something that can do that.
Well, do I know what it is? Thank you. I appreciate it. I have to be conscious of it now. Start paying attention to what I'm saying. Sometimes it just comes from inspiration, like you and Bria have inspired today. I was even thinking about, just to be around people that elevate your thoughts. That's so great. Just even have your thoughts elevated. Because like I always thought and wondered how. I never could understand. Most people cannot. That even with flaws are not so.
Keep smiling. Nothing's miserable.
Understand a person that's totally demonic. We can't understand that. That's the question most people ask every day. They see things on just the regular television shows. It's always like this new show that's out. Daily fix of crime today. I mean, what is this? I'm like, just like the things that's being presented to us, and the things that's being taken away that we needed, we don't have. The things being presented, we don't need. So it's just, we got to get back to balance and basics.
Speaking of poets, Juan, what's up? It's good to be on stage with y'all. As always,
this is breaking news. IllinoisRecord.com. List of rumors 2026 Illinois Republican.
Speaking of poets, I do think poets and poetry is the key to understanding this, to understanding relationality or challenging relationality. And in the comment section, I posted one of my favorite articles from Stanford Encyclopedia that was talking about Plato rhetoric and a philosopher versus poets. And in it talks about Plato, particularly with like Homer, right? So like before the establishment of the Republic, or before the establishment of politics, it's nothing but the Greek word for police or something like that. That just means city-state. Before that, the way people related to each other was the narrative they told each other about their God, so their deities. Be it because me and you both belong to the house of Husband, or because me and you both belong to the house of Dionysus, right? And what tied us together is not necessarily a political body or our relationship to a particular geographic location.
This is IllinoisRecord.com. Breaking news. Thanks to everyone sharing yesterday's article. Sean Morrison resigned. April 21st, a Republican Cook County GOP event. And so they're only letting committee members and committee people in to the event to watch Aaron Delmar. That's fucked up, man. Right?
בני ישראל הבאים מצרימה את
I'm not a committee member, but can I come in and watch it? I'm in and watch it. I'm John. I'm in and watch it.
Kind of giving us a short spiel about the economy.
I'm in and watch it.
This dome which hideth, which absorbeth me. This is the night wherein I am lost. The love through which
It is. There's a third level of
The charm continued. Knowledge wandered north. So listen to all these rooms. All these debate rooms are just roast rooms.
Yeah. Some of the funniest shit comes out.
The fool, the fool, the fool. Affirmation. I now follow my heart. I am open and ready to go wherever it may lead me. The sun symbolizes the creative and transformatory powers released by the melting basic sexual energy. What is the tiger affair for you? How do you imagine a courageous leap into the new? What does it look like? Where does your heart call you to go? You are ready for a new beginning, perhaps even a quantum leap. Give in, dare to leap, even if fear attempts to hold you back. Trust the voice from within your heart. The fool holds a cup with a base.
Is the session. The second one is nonsense because you're saying.
Assalamu alaikum.
No, I just want to say I don't even buy this principle that we could act out something that's
let's say, evil, malicious, or let's just say, some sort of vice, if it brings about like some greater.
They want to help shape the new world order. This is the task. This is the task of helping to shape a new world order in all its dimensions. So there you go with that new world order talk. 1959.
Did they say Did they say all its dimension?
So you from Houston and Chicago?
Yeah, he from Houston, Chicago. Yeah, but he talks about Brownie.
Chicago, Houston.
Yeah, Chicago.
Yeah, this.
Because I think I'm gonna have this problem with everybody.
Yeah. Saying even, how is it possible? You understand? Me, I just mind my business, I keep it pushing because I listen to my intuition. Now when them spirits start popping and shit's in my ear, baby.
You blink the fucking eye. She's a chief.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
I think
this
was.
It's really hard to let go unless
into black people's rooms and then instigate problems, just like a true.
No. I go in there just because they have the most dominant American rooms, and so I go in there expected to be treated just like an American, and they'll just be like, "Get out of here, white boy," and then kick you. And then sometimes they're like, "You kiss my big black dick, motherfucker."
Please don't scroll. I'm just trying to become a big content creator one day, but I have no
black people like that. We're not like
day, but I have
get out of here.
day, but I
treat everyone with respect. So they're different, and they tend to talk about their color and what white people have done. I tell them, I'm like, okay, or Indian people, or Mexican guys. They don't care how you feel. There's Russian people. There's Italians. There's the whole fucking world out there. You blame white people. It's like, come on. Like the richest person, in the Midwest is like Michael Jordan. I grew up with, him and watching him in Chicago. We don't. People in the U.S. that are successful, they don't make excuses. Why? They just move. The most successful people on the planet don't make excuses for themselves. They move. They move on. They do what they have to do, and that's how winning is done. Only cowards blame other people. I couldn't do it because some Asian guy took my job, or some black guy, or some white guy, or some Muslim guy. Well, come on. Grow up. And that's what these people think. Some of them, the ignorant ones. And they never learn. They'll even go to prison and blame white people for their decisions to sell drugs or shoot some other guy in the head for no reason. They're like 12 o'clock, so kids can see it when they're like 22 years old. And we got gangs that have 55,000 members in Chicago. All black. And they want to blame white people for the formation of a gang? It's stupid. We're done with it, so we move away from them. I love black people, but I hate ghetto people.
Okay. Now I get your whole ideology about this whole black and white thingy. You don't hear black people, but then the ghetto people are actually causing more harm than good. So whether a black person or a white person has all the rights in the world to not just like ghetto people, not just because you're black, man, because you think like an animal. So I don't fuck with you, and it's not about your color or where you're from. It's just how you think and how you interact with the world around you before you start thinking about college.
My biggest problem is I've had black girlfriends. I mean, in real life, none of this bullshit. I don't fall for women because that would be stupid. In real life, because I grew up, half my neighborhood's black, half white. It's like South Africa and shit, almost. So it wasn't a big deal. So these people out here trying to make it a big deal. Like, fuck. Like, they don't understand. Like, yeah, I grew up with black people. Lawyers? Like, they whoop your ass and shit for your bicycle and stuff. You gotta learn how to fight, bro. I ran faster than half of them. I danced, I boxed, all that shit. And then I would even rap battle them. Because I'm like, you ain't like Eminem almost. Because if you grow up in a black neighborhood and you're white, they say, you're not as athletic as us. You can't jump, right? White men can't jump. Yeah, they say you're not as fast as we are. And you're not as so they pick on you if you're white.
Yes, I understand. They start doing it, and then when you respond, then they play victim. Now you're trying to be.
So the blacks will pick on you, and say you got white privilege. I'm like, I go to the same shitty school you do, but then they don't. You fuck. Oh, well, your parents got money. I'm like, oh, okay. So it's my parents that are divorcing over fucking money. So you just want to be like, fuck these people. So what happens is immigrants come, they replace those people, and those people stay in the same shitty position they're in. Meanwhile, Mexicans, Hispanics, Nigerians, actual black people from Africa are coming over, doing the jobs that they're like, well, they'll say all these things, but they never procure them or do anything about it. They just are ignorant. And then they're mean to the African immigrants. And it's not about black and white. I want to make that abundantly clear about African Americans or black Americans. And they don't even like Africans. They see that as a threat because those men, take care of their families more, generally speaking, and are more religious and whatever. And they commit less crime, and they have real family values. And then they blame white people. And they say, well, you guys, you made us slaves. I'm like, no, actually, people in Africa sold you to slave traders, to a bunch of ignorant rednecks from the South. But anyway, don't let them define you. It's like letting the Jews define the whole damn thing about the Holocaust. They're still around, fucking with banks. It's like that's how winning is done. That's how, you be a victim or die. Have compassion, but also be righteous, reasonable, Let go of your ego. I could be black, or I could be anything. So I always put myself in the other person's shoes.
Yeah, that's why I actually you to just hear your own opinion, because I was just there trying to know what's going on, trying to balance things. This guy doesn't sound crazy, he knows what he's saying. So.
In real life, I really do get along with people better than on this app.
I can tell. I can tell a lot already. So, even more than the person that's complaining. Ooh, Superman, what's up, bro? What's up, bro? Alhamdulillah. So, they say Nigeria is the best.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, Jacob.
How you?
When I catch your dad looking on my block, I'm gonna make him put me on that wheel. You're hella god. I'm getting on that wheel. Who you trying to shut up?
Big lie. That's digging him out for what?
gotta talk
I'm
like
gonna
that.
try to get the next spelling, bitch.
That's right.
Cool. Sounds educated.
I love me some big
You're
lies.
gonna cure cancer over here.
I'm about to punch Dick guy. I'm about to fly it out.
Alright, cool. Go mate, have kids and stuff.
Jake,
Have fun. I'm just pissed off.
what's wrong?
I don't know. Not at anybody here.
It's my birthday.
Is it?
My
You're the one
birthday.
celebrating with us right now, Big. I'm trying to turn up with you. Man.
Are you dumb? I've been telling my birthday. Oh, no, don't do that. My party's on the 26th. My friends have stuff.
So
You guys, I bust my lip though. Why do you guys do that? My party's on the 26th.
we already
There's
know
no
that you
reason
said
for
that.
that.
Alright, yeah.
No, you guys
What's
made me
your
hit
address?
my
I can
phone.
put a
My
box.
phone just hit my lip. You made my phone hit my lip. It hurts so bad.
Alright, what's your address?
I wanna
So can
call
throw a bomb
somebody.
through your window.
No, you fucking retard. I think
Big
I'm
one, big one, big
bleeding.
one, big
I
one,
haven't started
bitch.
bleeding yet.
Oh yeah, 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 oh yeah.
I'll get Bob Big Lip or no, I'm still gonna say my shit. Give me the guitar. I made in what? Made in Italy, Big Lip. Oh yeah. Bring my nigga Tory, made in Italy. Big Lip, bitch.
Big one, big one, big one, big one, big one, big one, bitch. Free joy, free joy, free joy, free joy. Oh yeah, 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 oh yeah.
I had to fart. It's my birthday. If I have to fart, I'm gonna fart, bitch. Take the left in the bar, bitch. Say you wanna bitch, nigga, when bitch, nigga. Want me, right?
You know, Chad's been helping as well. Grant comes in here. Blue Knight comes in because he's trying to make sure that the podcast does well. We, Nelson, Cindy, everyone, Divine. We have Lauren. You just keep naming everyone. I can go down the list. J-Lo, Danielle, Mariana, Jonathan, Jazzy, a whole bunch of people. Just come in every night. A whole bunch of people. Come in every night. Every night. Mute your mic. Okay, don't do that. Don't do that. Just because I talk doesn't mean you talk. So let's just figure that there has to be hierarchy here to keep this thing in order. All right. So with that being said, they do a great job. All right, they do a great job every night coming in to make sure that you guys get the information, that you guys are entertained, and you guys leave out of here with other perspective. So with that being said, guys, if you haven't done it yet, make sure on either platform, whether it's CH or whether it's not, it's not the CH. If you're on CH or Chatter, make sure you guys just download the podcast. So with that, let's jump back into it, man, because guys, listen to me. $10 million. For this man to offer $10 million, $10 million. I mean, you can get a hell of a defense team for what, 1.5, and then for him to offer 10 mil, there's something there. Unless he just didn't want to mess up the bag for that $100 million deal for the podcast. I try to find the status of that podcast deal. I don't know what the status is of that podcast deal. So, I just think that when you look at this, the playbook is out there. You watch it happen to people that it should happen to, like the Diddy's and R. Kelly's and the Weinsteins, and everyone else. And then you see it happen to people that it shouldn't happen to, and based on what the evidence is thus far, please note that, like the Jay-Z's and others that have gone through this.
Imagine using your skills and experiences to inspire young minds.
Eternal companion, help us pour out our hearts to you, honestly and sincerely. With these prayers as our guide, help us feel close to you, dear God. Life makes warriors of us all. To emerge the victors, we must arm ourselves with the most potent of weapons. That weapon is prayer.